All right, ladies and gentlemen, for this last part of the video, we're going to be reading and interpreting a circle graph. So in this particular case, 60 students were surveyed about their favorite social media platform. So we're going to use that circle graph that we're given here to figure out the different fraction and number of students for each social media platform. So the first question that it says right here is it says how many students were surveyed? And a lot of times we can find that in our title. So there are 60 students that were surveyed. The next part that we need to do is we need to kind of figure out how much for each section. So when I look here, I'm kind of looking at the different parts and I'm trying to see if I see any like benchmarks. And when I do, I see two main benchmarks. I see, if we look right here, this and this. That is a quarter for Snapchat. So a quarter of the students like Snapchat. That's one of our benchmarks. So for Snapchat, for the fraction, I'm going to put 1/4. Okay. Then when I look, I also see another benchmark. I see TikTok, and TikTok is represented by a third of that graph. So for TikTok, I'm going to put 1/3. Now I'm going to use a different color to kind of indicate something else here. So if I look here, I know from here to here, that's also represented as a third. And that third is being split right in half with Instagram and Twitter. So if I were to take that third and split that in half, I would end up with sixes, okay? Like this. And you might not be able to see that right now, so I'm going to show that with this red, so don't write anything or anything like that. I just want to show you. So if I were to take this, okay, so we have this, and then we have this, and let's say I start splitting it into sixes. So that would be a six, a six, a six, a six, a six, and a six, okay? So that's kind of how that works. So let me erase this so it's a little bit easier to see now. Okay, so those are represented by a 6. So I'm going to go ahead and write that after I change my color back for Instagram and for Twitter. So they are exactly the same. And then we have this very, very small little sliver left, and that is going to represent a 12th. Okay, that's going to represent a 12th because that if we were to take that and do like the same kind of dividing thing that I did for each of these, because if you notice, Facebook is like half of Twitter. So if I do that, then we would end up with 12s. So now that we have those fractions, we just need to figure out the number of students. So I like looking at TikTok first, that has the most. So that had 60 student, or not 60 students, sorry. Let me cross that out. That had 60 students being divided by 3, because if we were to divide that by 3 or a third, we would end up with 20 students because 60 divided by 3 is 20. So TikTok has a total of 20 students. All right, so then that means that between Instagram and Twitter, that should also be 20 students. But Instagram doesn't get 20 students and Twitter doesn't get 20 students. We have to split that 20 in half. So if we were to take 20 and split that in half, we would end up with 10 students liking Instagram and 10 students liking Twitter. Now we just have our last part. We have Snapchat and Facebook. Now remember earlier I said Snapchat is going to, or I'm sorry, Facebook is going to be like half of Twitter. So if Twitter was 10, then that means that Facebook would have to be 5. And Snapchat would be what's left over because if you look here, let me change my color to make it a little bit easier for you. If we look here, this is representing a third or this is 20. So if this is 5, then Snapchat would have to be 15. So I'm going to put 15 there. So looking here, we always want to double and triple check to make sure that we do have our total of students, which is 60, 20 plus 10 plus 10 gives us our 40 plus the 15 and the 5 gives us our 60 that we need. Okay.